Ever met someone whose presence instantly brightens the room, until you realize it's only bright because they've left? Have you ever held someone's hand and felt warmth, only to later discover it was all an illusion? If you've lived long, enough, and I know you have, you've learned that not every smile hides kindness, and not every story deserves your sympathy. This isn't about blame. It's not about bitterness either. This is about clarity, the kind of hard-earned clarity you gain only after stumbling through enough emotional mazes to realize some women don't belong in your life. And that's okay, because here's the truth. Not everyone who acts like a friend truly is one, and not every woman who looks like peace will bring you peace. Some will drain your energy with subtle confusion. Others will leave you constantly doubting your worth. And the most dangerous? They hide behind charm, beauty, and flawless social grace, the kind that disarms your instincts just long enough to do real damage. In today's story, we'll uncover 6 unmissable signs of a toxic woman. These are traits no man can afford to ignore, not if he values his time, his mind, and his peace. This isn't a witch hunt, it's a wisdom check. It's about learning who deserves a seat at your table and who only came to steal your bread while you weren't looking. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The happiness of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts." I'd add, it also depends on the company you choose to keep. So let's sharpen that clarity together. Sign number 1. She's always the victim. This is one of the most overlooked red flags, especially by good men with kind hearts. You see, the first trait of a harmful woman is her unshakable identity as the victim. In every story, every argument, every memory, it doesn't matter if she's talking about a stranger who cut her off in traffic, her childhood friend who drifted away, or her 3 ex-husbands. Somehow the narrative always ends the same way. She was wronged, she was hurt, she was betrayed. You sit across from her, maybe on a first date, coffee in hand. You listen, you nod. And at first, you might even feel drawn in, protective even. She's convincing. Her stories are vivid. She paints herself as misunderstood by the world, treated unfairly at every turn. You think maybe all she needs is someone to truly care. Maybe I'm that person. That's the trap. Because if you stay long enough, you'll see the pattern. It's not just past pain, it's a strategy, a way to control the narrative, a way to gain sympathy, and slowly, power. I knew a man named Tom. Good guy, steady, honest, fresh off a divorce when he met someone just like this. At first, he admired her vulnerability. She seemed so open, so real. She poured out everything, how her ex lied, how her boss held her back, how everyone misunderstood her. And at first, he believed it all. But what Tom didn't see, what most don't see until it's too late, is that her stories weren't cries for help. They were rehearsed scripts, and he was just the latest audience, and this is only the beginning. Sign number 2. She's addicted to drama. You remember Tom, right? The good man who thought he found someone genuine, someone brave for enduring so much? Well, the deeper he got, the clearer it became. Her pain wasn't healing, it was performing. At first, he admired her resilience. She told him about how men feared strong women like her, how her family always sided with her sister, how every challenge she faced was someone else's fault. Tom believed she had weathered storms, and maybe she had. But over time, something didn't add up. The stories never ended, and worse, they never changed. Every job ended unfairly, every friend a backstabber, every relationship a tragedy where she was always the misunderstood heroine. And slowly, without realizing it, Tom became a character in her ongoing drama. One day he was the knight in shining armor, comforting her through another tale of betrayal. The next, he was the villain simply because he asked a question or suggested she take responsibility for just one thing. That's where things turn dangerous, because a woman who lives in a constant state of victimhood doesn't grow. She manipulates. She never owns her part in any conflict. She rewrites reality to fit her narrative, no matter how skewed. And the closer you get to her, the more entangled you become in that story. One day, you'll be the man who disappointed her, the one who didn't listen, the one who didn't love her the right way. And the emotional weight? It won't be shared. It'll be dumped on your shoulders over and over again. It's a cycle, and it's utterly draining. Stoic philosophy teaches us a simple truth. We cannot control the actions of others, only our own minds, our own choices. As Marcus Aurelius said, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. But the woman who clings to her victim identity rejects that strength. She refuses self-responsibility and instead demands that everyone else carry her emotional burdens. Her presence begins to drain not just your energy, but your clarity, your patience, even your identity. So, what can you do? Recognize it, name it, and most importantly, don't play the rescuer. You are not responsible for healing wounds someone refuses to tend to themselves. Offer kindness, yes, but stay anchored in logic, not guilt. Keep your boundaries clear, even if it feels uncomfortable. And if the story never changes, if the chaos keeps circling back like a storm that never ends, you walk away calmly, confidently, because as Stoic wisdom reminds us, peace is found within. And anyone who consistently pulls you into turmoil doesn't need your loyalty. They need distance. Now, on to the next sign, one that doesn't just test your patience. It tests your sanity. Let's talk about the woman addicted to drama after. Walking away from the emotional trap of victimhood, you might think the storm is over. But sometimes what comes next is even more subtle and even more destructive. We're talking about the woman who's addicted to drama. And no, this isn't. About the occasional emotional reaction we all have from time to time. That's human. What we're dealing with here is something entirely different. A woman whose entire world feels like a never-ending performance. One where she's the writer, the director, and the star. Her life isn't just dramatic. It requires drama, too. Function. If things around her get too quiet, too stable, she'll ignite conflict just to break the silence. Peace makes her uneasy. Stillness feels like suffocation. So she stirs the pot, not always consciously, but habitually, because to her, emotional turbulence equals being alive. You won't notice it all at once. It starts with little things. Maybe one night you miss a detail in her story because your mind drifts for a moment. Maybe you reply to her text a little slower than usual. Suddenly, you're accused of being distant, cold, disinterested. What should have been a peaceful evening spirals into an argument you never saw coming. You find yourself defending your tone, your timing, your silence, even when nothing's actually wrong. And while you're left drained and confused, she appears recharged. as if the argument itself gave her energy. That's the unsettling truth about those who crave drama. Chaos fuels them. Why? Because drama keeps them in control. When emotions run high, when the air is tense and heavy, they're in the spotlight. They become the center of everyone's attention. The environment starts orbiting around their emotional waves, while everyone else is pulled along, struggling to stay balanced. From a Stoic perspective, this behavior isn't surprising. It's predictable. As Seneca once said, an angry man opens his mouth and shuts his eyes. And this woman, she's not interested in truth or resolution. She's chasing a rush, a momentary high from emotional reaction. It's not about finding peace, it's about feeling powerful. And if you're the closest emotional spark in the room, prepare to get scorched. The real danger? You won't even realize you're caught in her whirlwind until it's too late. You'll tell yourself you're helping, being supportive, staying calm, but really you've become part of her performance. You're reacting instead of thinking, surviving instead of living. And day by day it wears you down. You lose clarity. You lose your footing. You start walking on eggshells, anticipating the next outburst, afraid to say or do the wrong thing. Your own inner stillness, the very core of your peace, begins to fade. And when a man loses that stillness, he loses himself. Sign number 3. She controls through guilt. When a man loses his inner stillness, the only way to reclaim it is by stepping back. Not always physically, but emotionally. That's how you break free from the chaos of someone addicted to drama. And here's the key: let the emotional waves crash. Without diving in to rescue anything, let them roar, let them rise, and just watch. Don't engage. Don't react. As Epictetus wisely taught, we cannot control others, we can only control how we respond. And sometimes the most powerful response is no response at all. Silence, distance, presence without participation. You are not required to be an actor in anyone's emotional play. Your peace is not collateral. Your energy is not up for auction. Your role as a grounded man guided by Stoic wisdom is to remain calm, solid, and above all, free. But what if? The chaos doesn't come with shouting or arguments. What if it comes in the form of silence, sighs, and subtle disappointment? That brings us to the third sign of a bad woman. She controls through guilt. Did you know guilt is one of the most powerful forms of emotional manipulation? Science has shown that guilt activates the same areas in the brain as physical pain. That heavy feeling in your chest, the knot in your stomach. It's not your imagination, it's real. And unfortunately, some women, the wrong women, know exactly how to use it. She doesn't attack, she doesn't accuse. She simply lets you feel like you've failed her. At first, you tell yourself she's just sensitive, that maybe she's just emotionally in tune. You cancel a work meeting to make it up to her. You postpone your gym session, your downtime, your plans, because you don't want to see that subtle shift in her expression. You know the one, the quiet eyes that say, "I thought I meant more to you." The long pause on the phone, the disappointed sigh that cuts deeper than words ever could. She never needs to say anything directly. That's the brilliance and the danger of this type of control. It's silent but powerful, and without realizing it, you begin to rearrange your life, not out of love, but out of guilt. You shift your priorities. You abandon your goals. You shrink yourself just to avoid the weight of her disapproval, and Slowly, something starts to shift inside you. You stop acting from reason. You stop honoring your values. Instead, you react. You try to keep the peace. You try to avoid that ache of guilt by giving in over and over again. This is how she holds power. Guilt becomes the currency she trades in. And the more you pay, the more you lose your freedom, your clarity, your sense of self. Sign number 4. She lacks empathy. When guilt becomes the quiet chain that binds you, you're no longer living freely. You're reacting. You've stopped making choices based on who you are and started making them to avoid her disappointment. But here's the catch. Her control rarely comes through direct demands. It comes in more subtle forms: withdrawn affection, cold silences, shifting moods. You don't hear the words, but you feel the pressure. You sense the emotional consequences of saying no before the question is even asked. You start explaining your actions more than choosing them, justifying decisions you shouldn't have to, and slowly, without realizing it, you begin to play a role she has crafted for you. You become who she wants you to be, not who you truly are. This is where Stoic philosophy offers clarity like no other. Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." And that's exactly what guilt takes from you: mastery over your own mind and choices. Because when you allow guilt to steer your behavior, you give away your autonomy. You stop acting from reason. You become reactive, tangled in a cycle of emotional appeasement. Your goals blur. Your values fade. You lose the anchor of your identity. So what's the solution? It's not to argue, not to match manipulation with confrontation. It's to become firm, clear, unshakable. Set boundaries, not out of anger, but out of clarity. Give only what you choose to give, not to avoid punishment, but because it aligns with who you are. And when she tries those old guilt-laced tactics, you don't flinch, you stay still, calm, present. A man who knows his values and stands by them, that man is truly free. And freedom isn't something that can be stolen through guilt. It can only be surrendered, and only if you allow it. Now, let's move to the 4th sign, one that often hides until life gets real, until hardship hits. She lacks empathy, and if you've walked through enough of life's storms, you already know. Hard times don't just reveal character. They reveal connection. When life knocks you down, when someone close passes away, when your health falters, or when your business takes a sudden hit, you learn quickly who's really standing beside you. A woman who lacks empathy, she won't be there, or worse, she'll be there physically, but not emotionally. Not truly. You'll feel it in the little things first. You open up about how exhausted you are after a brutal week, and she barely glances up from her phone before changing the subject back to something about her day, something meaningless. Or maybe you share something real, something that required a bit of courage to admit. And instead of leaning in, showing care, or even acknowledging it, she brushes it off like it was just background noise. When someone lacks empathy, you don't just notice it, you feel it. It's not only that she doesn't understand your pain, it's that she doesn't even want to. There's a cold distance in her response, a kind of emotional vacancy that makes you feel alone, even when she's right beside you. A man I know, someone wise, someone I deeply respect, once shared his story with me. After losing his wife, he began dating again, slowly and cautiously, The woman he met seemed supportive at first. She said all the right things, smiled at the right moments, but when the full weight of his grief surfaced, when he didn't need advice or cheer, just quiet presence, her mask slipped. She grew uncomfortable, restless, like she was trapped in a scene she couldn't escape fast enough. She didn't know how to sit in silence, to offer comfort without trying to fix something. Instead, she changed the subject, gave shallow reassurances, then circled back to what really mattered. To her schedule, her issues, her life, and he told me something I'll never forget. I was lonelier with her than I ever was alone. That's the kind of loneliness Stoicism helps you see clearly. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be one." To that I'd add, waste no more time hoping someone becomes something they are not. You cannot teach someone empathy. You can't guilt it out of them. You can't perform well enough to finally earn their compassion. It's either there or it isn't, and when it's missing, it echoes in every silence, every unanswered look, every moment where you're emotionally bleeding. And they just blink and move on. An empathetic woman won't need to say much. She doesn't need to solve your pain. She just shows up, fully, sincerely. With her presence, she says, "I'm with you. You're not alone." But a woman who lacks empathy, she might sit beside you on the couch, but you'll feel like she's in another world. And if you find yourself making excuses for her distance, rationalizing her coldness during your lowest points, stop. Don't explain it away, face it. Stoic wisdom reminds us, accept what is, not what you wish it could be, and what is here is brutally simple. If she can't offer compassion during your hardest chapters, she won't be there for the storm still to come. The answer isn't to beg for more from someone who's emotionally unavailable. It's to choose differently. Walk away if you must. Not in bitterness, but with clarity, because life is far too short to share it with someone who hears your words but never feels your heart. After reflecting on how empathy, or the absence of it, can leave you feeling utterly alone, we turn to another trait, one that seems harmless at first, but over time, it drains something far deeper than your energy, your values. Sign number 5, she's obsessed with superficial things. This is the kind of woman who views life through the lens of appearance. It's not about who you are, but what you can display, how big the house is, how expensive the handbag, how many followers are watching, liking, clapping. In her world, image isn't just important, it's everything. You might brush it off at first. What's wrong with liking nice things, you ask? Nothing, if the desire ends there, but for her it runs much deeper. It's not about the things themselves. It's about what they signal: status, approval, superiority. Her worth is measured by what she can show, not what she can be. And soon, whether you realize it or not, you become part of her scoreboard. She evaluates you not by your character, your integrity, or your wisdom, but by what you bring to the table visibly. What kind of watch you wear, what kind of car you drive, what kind of lifestyle you can produce on the outside. And no matter what you offer, it will never be enough. Why? Because someone always has more. Whether you earn 6 figures or 7, whether you take her to the mountains or the Maldives, it won't satisfy her for long. She'll always be looking at the next man, the next luxury, the next upgrade. It's like living inside a race you never agreed to run. The Stoics warned us about this over 2,000 years ago. Epictetus wrote, Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. But a woman trapped in superficiality is caught in the opposite cycle. No matter what she gains, the satisfaction is fleeting, like a sugar high. What follows isn't contentment, it's craving, an endless hunger for more. You give and give, time, energy, money, attention. But it's like pouring water into a cracked jar. Nothing ever stays. Nothing ever fills her, because what she truly seeks isn't connection, it's comparison. And if you tie yourself to someone like this, you won't just be exhausted, you'll be lost. Marcus Aurelius called these things, money, fame, status, indifference. They neither add nor subtract from who you truly are. They don't define your character. They don't shape your soul. Virtue does, integrity does. How you live, what you stand for, that's what matters. But a woman who lives on the surface will never see that. She'll never recognize the depth in you, no matter how much of your heart, mind, or soul you offer. As Seneca put it best, it is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, who is poor. And the woman obsessed with the external, she may be surrounded by luxury, but she is the poorest kind of companion, because she will never find peace, and she will never give it to you. In the last section, we talked about the woman who's consumed by superficiality, how chasing appearances leads to losing something far more valuable, your peace. And peace, my friend, is the one thing a Stoic man protects above all else, because once peace is gone, everything else begins to unravel. So if you find yourself with someone who values the image of life more than the substance of it, understand this: trying to keep up will only cost you your time, your energy, your self-respect. You'll spend your days chasing shadows, illusions that vanish the moment you think you've caught them. The solution? Simple, but rarely easy. You walk away. Not in anger, not to prove a point, but with quiet wisdom, because a man who treasures his peace doesn't waste it on a shallow life. He doesn't try to convince someone to value depth when they only see surface. And now we come to the sixth sign of a harmful woman. Sign the number 6. She can't admit she's wrong. Once you learn to guard the truth, the next danger often reveals itself. She can't admit when she's wrong, not in big dramatic moments, but in the small things. Simple disagreements suddenly turn into emotional explosions. You explain your point calmly, lay out facts, even provide evidence so clear a child could understand it. And still, she refuses to acknowledge it. And if she can't win with logic, she'll change the conversation. Suddenly, it's no longer about the topic. It's about how you hurt her, how you always make her feel attacked, how this is what you always do. The original issue gets buried beneath a storm of emotional redirection. At first, you might think it's just pride or that she's having a bad day, but eventually, you'll see the pattern. This isn't occasional stubbornness, it's a refusal to take accountability, whether it's a poor decision, a thoughtless comment, or a hurtful action. She will justify it to the bitter end, because in her mind, being wrong equals being weak. And weakness? That's something she refuses to allow. But the issue runs deeper. It's about a fragile ego. People who can't take responsibility often protect a self-image that's too delicate to admit fault. Owning up feels like an identity crisis, so they deny, deflect, fight. Not to understand, but to preserve the illusion of control, and in the process, they lose something far greater: growth, connection, trust. because someone who can't acknowledge their mistakes can't learn from them. And someone who doesn't learn doesn't grow. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "If anyone can refute me, show me I'm making a mistake or looking at things from the wrong perspective, I'll gladly change. It's the truth I'm after." That's the mark of true wisdom. The wise don't fear being wrong, they fear not being corrected. A woman who can't say, "I was wrong," isn't just protecting her pride. She's cutting herself off from understanding and from real love. For a Stoic man, this is where clarity must take over. Choose humility, choose truth, and choose a partner who chooses the same, not because she's flawless, but because she's brave enough to admit she's not. Without humility, there's no relationship, only competition. And life's too short to live in a scoreboard. Seneca wrote, "Only time can heal what reason cannot." But in a relationship where reason never gets a seat at the table, time only deepens the damage. So, what do? You seek someone who understands. That saying, "I was wrong," is not weakness, it's strength. And if she can't offer that, then it's time to walk away, not in anger, but out of deep respect for yourself and the life of clarity you're building. Sign number 7. She disrespects your time. Once you've learned to protect truth, the next lesson is just as essential. Protect your time, cause if life teaches us anything, it's that time is the one currency you can never earn back. Money, you can make more. Health, you can fight to restore it. But time, once gone, is gone forever. And a woman who disrespects your time is more than just inconsiderate. She's a quiet threat to your peace. And if you're not careful, she will steal years from your life, slowly, subtly, without you realizing it. I remember a man named Richard, a successful contractor in Houston, hardworking, respected, self-made from the ground up. In business, unshakable. In love, not so much. He started dating a woman named Elise. Charming, warm, magnetic, she knew how to make a man feel seen. But soon, the signs began to show. She was always late. First 20 minutes, then 40. She'd cancel last minute. Sometimes she'd just forget altogether. Richard, being patient, let it slide. Life gets busy, right? But weeks turned into months. He started rearranging his life for hers. Waiting alone at restaurants, canceling work trips, skipping fishing weekends with old friends because Elise really wanted to see him. And then she'd bail. Again. No call, no apology. I remember one afternoon, sitting across from Richard, his phone on the table. She'd stood him up again. He stared at the screen and quietly said, "I feel like I'm always waiting." And that's what happens when someone doesn't value your time. They don't just leave you waiting at tables. They leave you waiting in your mind, in your emotions, in your expectations. Worse still, they'll make you believe you're the problem, that you need to be more understanding, that this is just how life works now. But a Stoic man knows better. Seneca once wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." And eventually, Richard realized the truth. Elise wasn't busy. She wasn't forgetful. She just didn't value his time because she didn't truly value him, and he had allowed it by not valuing his own time first. The answer isn't confrontation, it's clarity. Respect your time as fiercely as your life, because in truth, they're the same. A woman who truly values you will respect your time, because when someone honors your presence, They honor every minute you give them. When someone respects your time, you feel it. She shows up when she says she will. She's present, not just in body, but in intention. She treats each minute you give her like something sacred. And why? Because it is. Epictetus once asked, "How long are you going to wait before you demand the best for yourself?" Richard eventually stopped waiting, and so should you, because time wasted is not just inconvenience, it's life wasted. You deserve to spend yours in places where it's honored, with people who see your presence as a gift, not a convenience. So take this as a reminder, or perhaps a wake-up call. Choose peace over chaos. Choose depth over charm. And above all, choose yourself, not selfishly, but wisely. I'd love to hear about your own journey, your stories, your lessons, your victories. Drop a comment below and let us know how you've grown through challenge or what truth hit hardest for you today. And if you're unsure what to write, simply type "I love." This to let us know you stayed with us to the very end. Your voice matters. Your engagement builds a community grounded in wisdom, in truth, and in the daily practice of becoming better, one choice at a time. To keep learning, growing, and sharpening your clarity, I've left 2 more videos right here. Dive in. Keep the momentum going. Thank you for watching. Stay grounded, stay wise, and I'll see you in the next one.